Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening and welcome to Hajj Day Today. I'm Ali Coleman, our bureau host for tonight's program. For the next few days, normally at this time, we're preparing to start Sheikh Mohammed Salah's program, and after that, the Hajj Tonight program. Both of them have been temporarily suspended for the Hajj schedule. We'll resume them next week, inshallah. Tonight, we're going to continue our conversations, the various aspects of a very important pillar in the Islamic religion, that is the Hajj pilgrimage. Right now, there are millions of people who are waiting to start the rituals. Today, we're going to be focusing our conversation on how the Hajj pilgrimage is a comprehensive act of worship. There are many aspects of worship built into the various rituals that are performed in different aspects of the Hajj pilgrimage. We're joined by Brother Idris Sirat. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Brother Idris.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Nice to see you. Lightning does strike twice.
Yeah, apparently so.
We're also joined by Brother Mustafa Yosef. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it hasn't been too long since you were with us.
No, it was actually, it hasn't been too long now, like few weeks ago.
Well, it's nice to see you with us in this hard setting. We hope, inshallah, that you and all Muslims can have the privilege of performing Hajj.
I hope so. I hope so.
Brother Idris, you have already performed the Hajj pilgrimage.
Yes.
How long ago did you perform Hajj? And did you go with your family? Were you based in Egypt at that time, or did you leave from the U.S.?
It's been a while since I made Hajj, actually.
Okay.
I went in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Mecca was a completely different place at the time as far as the way it looks. And probably the things that went on there are a little bit different. And I went with, at the time, my wife and my teacher, my sheikh. He took a group of us and made Hajj together.
Wonderful. So you were there with people close to you in your life?
Yes, yes. Oh, just a side note, I left from America. I didn't leave from Egypt, I was from America.
Okay, all right. I have faced some difficulty trying to make the Hajj from Egypt. There's some complications. It's almost like they want me to go back to the U.S. and make the Hajj from there. But in any case, so we want to look at the different aspects of worship tonight. Let's start with prayer. This is something that that Muslims perform every day of our lives, inshallah, 5 times a day or more. What about prayer in the Hajj pilgrimage as a way of worship? It's probably the most obvious, but can you please talk about that?
The prayer itself is a continuation of bringing yourself closer to Allah and submitting to Him. And of course, there's many other things we'll talk about that we do to submit to Him. But it's sort of a personal thing between you and Allah. There isn't like a group thing where we connect mentally and we know what's going on. It's between you and Allah only. And it's something you should develop with yourself to better yourself. Because the closer this relationship comes, the better you will find inner peace and find that what you're looking for, no matter what it is. And you'll see this in Hajj in mind-blowing numbers that most of us from the West have never seen before.
So, all right, normally most of us nowadays have seen these live feeds from Saudi Arabia at the Grand Mosque in Mecca, and they show the daily prayers. How does the prayers for Hajj differ? Do they all occur at the same place at the Grand Mosque? Where are the different locations where the group prayers occur?
For me, like I said, it was back in 2000 when I went, so I don't know if it's changed since then, but when I was there, we all prayed together, and the different thing that was then, I don't know if it still is this way, was that they didn't have, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but it was so hectic that you didn't have an area for women and an area for men. It was so hectic that everyone just prayed. You will find yourself, I found myself one time, maybe 10 yards from the Kaaba, rushing, trying to get there, and I was late. A guy grabbed me and put me next to him in the prayer, and next to me was a woman. So it was very different than you normally will have.
I see.
Of course, you're not touching or anything, but just the fact that there's no room. It's just massive. There's so many people. At the time, I don't know if it's this way now, but that everyone just prayed everywhere.
Right. And, you know, maybe it is different. Like you said, it's been 14, 15 years.
It's been a long time, so.
And there have been, over that time period, there have been a number of development projects at the Grand Mosque and the holy sites. And we want to also update the viewers that we saw yesterday, just a quick side note, that King Salman has agreed to compensate the families of those who passed away or were injured in this crane incident that happened last week. It works out to be about $240,000 for each to the families of those who lost someone, and about $130,000 for those who suffered injuries. In addition, those who were injured and cannot perform the Hajj this year, King Salman will, at his expense, invite them back next year to perform the Hajj. Just a quick update on something that captured our attention, and we're very sad to hear about. Brother Mustafa, we want to bring you into the conversation. We've been talking about the different areas that we pray in. What about the sacrifice? There are a few times during the Islamic calendar that we hear about sacrifice. Can you talk about this? When does it occur? What does it signify?
First of all, I'd like just to highlight the, the importance and the significance of this gathering, this huge gathering. If you allow me before we carry on and talk about sacrifice, is that I believe that actually as Muslims we should be proud of Hajj, because there is no other religion that can, gather this huge number of people, as brother has just said, that probably because of this, the place is so hectic that you can hardly find a place to pray in. That's like millions of people gathering together for one cause, for one reason, just for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no other religion that has this huge number of people, brought all together, and not just, just being together, but also acting in a very, civilized way, as well as, of course, there are some incidents that happen, but at the end of the day, like millions of people gathered together just for one cause and for one reason. Then moving to the point of sacrifice, actually, the point of sacrifice started with the story of Abraham, peace be upon him, when he went with his family to Mecca for going there, just and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to sacrifice his son for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he decided actually to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what he saw in his during sleep, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to kill his own son. This is actually an act of a sacrifice that probably any one of us as a human wouldn't be able to do it. It's probably easier to sacrifice oneself, rather than like one son or daughter. The love that you have for something, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to sacrifice all of that.
And a long-awaited son at that.
Yes, exactly. And he waited actually for this son for a long time. He spent without this son, and then probably after years, after the love grew in his heart, and he became very connected with him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to sacrifice him.
And just to add to the history, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Definitely.
This is after. Was this after, help me reconnect the history, was this after he had taken Ishmael to the Arabian Peninsula, peace be upon him?
Yes, exactly. This is after he took his wife, Hajar, with Ishmael to the peninsula and left them there. It was another order as well from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he left them there. He was sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of them. This is, in this story there are so many, lessons that one should, learn. Taking his wife and leaving his child in a desert,
right?
There are no reasons for them to live, but he had this, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who ordered me to do it. He is the one who is going to take care of them. And even his wife, actually, she didn't say, okay, you're leaving us here, you're leaving us alone, and so on. She asked him, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala order you to do this? And then he said yes. And then she said, then Allah will take care of us. That's a lot of sacrifice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually has rewarded Ishmael, Abraham, and Hagar fall later. So from this sacrifice, I think we should learn a lot of things, and this is probably the true meaning of what we do during Hajj. We have to remember during performing the, for example, as-sa'i bin Safa al-Marwa, it's like going from Safa to Marwa, and we should probably remember how Hajar, has suffered in this place to go, like even for a man like me, for going from Safa to Marwa like 7 times is really a hard thing to do. How about a lady with a child, So I think there are many lessons and many meanings behind just the rituals that we perform in Hajj. It's not just, like the acts themselves, or just going from one place to another, or going around the sanctuary. There are definitely meanings behind each ritual.
There's a very deep connection that Muslims share. And this is one of the things, when people... there's a big misconception, I think, that non-Muslims have, that this is a new religion that Prophet Muhammad created and he received the Quran. But no, it's connected to all the prophets. And in fact, the Kaaba itself, we're told in history, was originally created by Prophet Adam, the first human being.
Yes.
Right? So it encompasses all the prophets, all the history of Allah and His prophets. I want to ask about, you mentioned a few times about sacrifice. Yes. In these other traditions that have now been corrupted, the Jewish faith, there was a very, sacrificing animals was a very important part of the lives of the Jews in ancient times. And the Christians inherited this, but they used this so-called atonement. Believing in the death of Prophet Jesus means that you have eternal salvation. Make the difference for us. When we talk about the sacrifice, the animal sacrifice by Muslims in Eid al-Adha or any other time, what is the difference? Are we saying that we're looking for Allah's forgiveness, or what is the meaning and purpose of the sacrifice of the animal?
With me, just briefly, and he can answer more.
Okay.
Is that I think it's more. It's showing us that the idea and the word sacrifice isn't what we think it is.
Okay.
We have this connotation in our heads that it's an evil thing, it's a bad thing, and what it does for us is allows us to remind us that we have no control. In reality, Allah is the one who's controlling everything. It frees you from feeling as though that you have control over something. It shows you a way that opens up your mind to a different understanding of what the reality of the situation is. Unlike how they think of it as more of a connection to something, but really it's a freedom in a sense.
Okay. So, Brother Mustafa, the difference between the sacrifice that we perform every year at Eid al-Adha and, that we have viewers who are Christians, they're non-Muslims viewing us. Help us understand what is different from the animal sacrifice of the Old Testament times by the ancient Jews, this concept of atonement, believing in the Christian church, and the sacrifice of animals by Muslims during the Hajj.
I'd like just to highlight actually the fact that the act of sacrifice that we do in the feast, or probably that is done during Hajj, is a kind of a ritual. It's a ritual part. It's not the sacrifice that I'll go to paradise once I just slaughter the animal, but it's an act of worship that can be accepted or cannot be accepted. It depends on your intention. We all wish that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our deeds, but it doesn't mean just you slaughter the animal then you're forgiven. We just have hopes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from you. And I think there is a kind of an act of purification that happens when you sacrifice something precious for you. So it's a kind of, because we love money, we love the things that are close to us. And one more time, if the act of sacrifice, it just dates back to the sacrificing Ishmael, the Abraham's own son. So the act of sacrifice actually purifies oneself, because when you get out this love of dunya, or this love of the precious things that you have just in here for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for a reason that is more important than the things that you have in life, it actually purifies and leaves a mark in everyone.
So Muslims are not sacrificing animals to seek forgiveness or atonement or salvation.
It's absolutely different. It's absolutely different.
In fact, most times, if not, correct me if I'm wrong, the sacrifice is given as a form of charity.
Exactly.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And this is yet another layer of worship in the Hajj pilgrimage. Charity, giving charity.
Yes, exactly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Noble Quran, وَأَطْعِمُوا الْبَائِسَ فَكُلُوا مِنْهَا وَأَطْعِمُوا الْبَائِسَ الْفَقِيرَ, which means like after you slaughter the sheep or the animal, you eat and the poor person eats from it. And this is another, another lesson as well, is like you eat from the same thing that the poor person eats from. So you share the same food.
Yeah.
Even if you are, like, say, like the richest man in the world, you share the same thing with probably the poorest man in the world. You're eating from the same food, the same thing, exactly the same thing.
And we're praying next to him as well.
I'm praying next to him and dressing the same
We're
dress,
dressing the same way.
the same way. So there are actually thousands of meanings and of lessons from Hajj. So one of them is during the sacrifice. One more time is like you share the same food with poor people and with other people,
and providing for them in ways that they may not be able to provide for themselves.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little more about the ways. Let's talk a little bit more about charity. In many ways, the actions that are performed during Hajj remind me a lot of Ramadan. We are encouraged to give the zakat al-fitr, and we're giving charity in the Hajj. Can you make this help me make this point?
I think that another point that is often you'll find in Hajj is that it after this freeing up of yourself, Allah shows you that it opens up your humanity. So that it makes giving easier for you. Because you have to remember, Hajj is a changing point of view.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a match to start a better future. So doing this and being able to give this charity will make it easier for you, because we have to admit, as human beings, naturally giving isn't usually an easy thing for most people. We don't necessarily sometimes don't give because we don't want to. It's just in our nature. We're just part of how we want to cling on to the doing the things. So this helps us free up that and flee from this stingy feeling that's natural in us.
Especially when prices are so high.
Oh, yes.
That's true.
So,
all right. So another thing that we do that we can see in Hajj that is, like I said, a lot like Ramadan, we are encouraged in Ramadan to withhold our anger, right? And to perform acts of kindness. I mean, is it any different when we're performing Hajj?
I think it's exactly the same. There is a verse in the Noble Quran that says, فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. So it starts first with the لَا رَفَثَ. It's anything that is actually, it implies the relationship between a man and a woman. Because actually during Hajj, like the men or women are not allowed to, even of course the married ones are not allowed even to have the intimate relationship during Hajj. So that's a part and actually an act of fasting as well.
Yeah, that's right.
During Ramadan. So this is one thing. فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ. So there is no. Do you avoid all bad deeds, doing any bad deeds that would corrupt your Hajj. And la jidala fil Hajj, which means like you try to avoid all, like any controversy that may happen or any fight that can happen between you and another performer of Hajj. So it definitely includes the acts of fasting during Ramadan, which kind of preventing oneself from the things that you're not allowed to do in Ramadan. So this is the preventing oneself or abstaining from anger, and also abstaining from the sexual desire.
Right. Brother Idris, do you think that this is the wisdom why Allah placed the Hajj after Ramadan to help us to be more successful when performing the Hajj?
I think it has a sort of a connection to it.
Okay.
But just to backtrack, just the one little bit where you mentioned about how does it control one's temper, one anger, or one problem. Hajj is the ultimate test. If you have an anger issue, Hajj will test you. People tend to not always...
With the millions of
with
people.
And it isn't because, a lot of times, because they're doing it on purpose.
Right.
You have different cultures.
Yeah.
What's okay in this culture is not okay in this culture.
Okay.
So it becomes not necessarily that people are just intentionally going and, maliciously, trying to anger people.
Right.
It's just the nature of what it is. You have millions and millions of people coming to one area, so you'll find yourself being tested.
Even as an American here in Egypt, like you say, the cultural background and identity, we are accustomed in America to having a larger personal space.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. It's a discussion I've had at work before. Yes.
So even if I sometimes find myself a little uncomfortable, in the streets or at work with my imagine, there's even less. I haven't performed the Hajj, but even more at the...
It's a lot worse than even in Egypt. Your personal space pretty much disappears. But I will tell you, after you were there for at least a day, you tend to... Allah eases this from you. So somehow it's a blessing of Hajj. The fact that you're all, you're wearing 2 white cloths and nothing else, it kind of leaves you, and you leave a lot of these things that you normally have elsewhere. You kind of, they leave you, and it doesn't bother you as much when you're there.
Yeah.
After the initial shock of the wears off.
Right. I mean, it's not like if you attend a political rally or something like that, and you maybe for 3 or 4 hours you're uncomfortable, and the purpose is entirely different. But when you're performing Hajj, I mean, it's for the purposes of purifying yourself. So you have to find a way to release that negative. What about the interactions that we have in terms of conversations? I imagine that, I hear often that the Hajjis are advised not to even open controversial political subjects. There are lots of things that are impacting the Muslim Ummah right now. But I imagine, it's better to...
When you're on Hajj, you have to remember why you're there.
Yeah.
Your intentions are the number one thing that you have to control. Why are you there? If you're there to worship and get closer to Allah, do this. And everything else that's away from it, it's not the time for that. Hajj is a small window. You have plenty of time to go home and discuss whatever you want to discuss with people.
Right.
But during Hajj, it's like sort of like fasting. Hajj is for Allah. The way fasting is for Allah alone. It isn't for any other purpose except for you to come close to Allah.
You've performed, as you said, the Hajj several years ago. To help us appreciate your feelings, what were you going through from the time that you got your ticket, when you were flying over, after you landed? What kind of experiences and feelings and thoughts were you having?
You have a wave of emotions. You try to prepare yourself, okay, what am I going to do, and what am I going to say, and okay, be prepared for certain things, and try to be calm and think how you will feel. But in reality, after the end of the day, sad to say, there's nothing you can do besides out of knowing the rituals that will prepare you for your ever first Hajj. It's nothing you can actually do to prepare yourself. It's an experience that's undescribable and unpreparable, that you will experience an uplifting that I can't never just tell you in words. It was an amazing thing. I met amazing people. You will meet people from around the world who do acts of kindness that you don't even expect.
When I imagine that I'm going to be going to Hajj, I find myself almost overwhelmed, like afraid that I would make a mistake because of the technicalities involved.
You will. I memorized a lot of rituals. I memorized dua, but when I saw the Kaaba for the first time, I couldn't even remember the dua. Why? Because I was overwhelmed thinking that this is where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make tawaf, where he used to make sajda. You know, it brings you a lot of times with this ritual thing that we have around the world. We do it out of obedience because we believe it.
Yeah.
We know it to be true. But when you find yourself going to the places where it came from, the greatest man that walked the face of the earth, who Allah blessed to lead us, when you find yourself in the same environment, knowing this is where he was, this is what happened here, it sort of brings it home to you. It finds that connection that you didn't have before, like where it was more theory. I'm doing the practice, but it's sort of disconnected from the theory. When you go to Hajj, it sort of connects the theory with the practice and brings it home for you.
Yeah.
It's like hitting that home run in sports or kicking a goal. It's the finality in it that brings you towards it, and it overwhelms you.
So was it the moment when you saw the Kaaba?
For me, that's what it was.
Okay. I believe actually it's for everyone, because you've just reminded me of a friend who told me actually, if you go there and you see Kaaba, it's different. Even if you were told that you probably get your mind blocked, and this is what he said. He said, I got my mind blocked. I forgot everything. I just got, I kept looking at Kaaba. It's completely different. I actually had it from more than one person who has been there. He said, and the last one told me, even if you're told when you go there, it has the sacredness that you probably would overwhelm you once you get there.
It's a flood. It's a flood of emotions.
Yeah.
It isn't just one. It's a massive flood of emotions that you can't describe to people. People often ask me, and I told them, I can only give you a taste of what it is, but it's one of those things that you can't describe it.
You have to do it.
It's like they say, the person, we have a saying in America that you don't know how it is until you've done it. You just won't know. It's an amazing thing.
You're giving me chills.
I hope inshallah one day.
We've been talking about how Hajj encompasses many forms of worship. We've talked about prayer, we've talked about sacrifice, we've talked about fasting, not from food, but from certain things in our lives that we enjoy, intimate relations with our wives, being careful with our emotions, being extra kind, all these things. What other kinds of forms of worship? Being gentle, being merciful. Can you talk about this?
I think the one of the most important things, as you have just said, you mentioned about the technicalities and the organization of things. It teaches one how to be organized. What to start, how to start fast. It's a kind of a camp for you to learn so many things about life. It's like how to be very organized, what to start with and what to end with, what to do after this, and in every part you learn something. So the organization is one of the most important things that probably one would learn from Hajj. Along with patience too, for example, as you've just said, when dealing with people, I've got to be patient. Going from one place to another 7 times and doing this for a long time, you've got to be patient. Standing on Arafat for a long time and so on, so you've got to be patient. So this is one of the, I think, the important lessons that one could learn from Hajj. Another lesson actually that we were talking about is behind each act, behind each ritual, there are more than one lesson. I would like to go back to, going back from Safa to Marwa.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brother Mustafa. Don't forget your point. You want to talk about Safa and Marwa? We're going to take a look at a report that's ready for us, a short report, just a couple minutes. It's the lessons of Hajj. We'll come back, inshallah. Brother Mustafa is going to give us the points about Safa and Marwa.
The journey of Hajj actually has many lessons. Amongst these lessons is the greatest and first and foremost recognition of the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is to recognize that none other than Allah is to be recognized as the Lord of the universe, the Creator, the maintainer, the sustainer, the provider, the giver of life, the taker of life, the one who deserves our recognition in all of His attributes and lordship. And it also brings us into recognition that none other than Allah is deserving of worship. The one who created me and provides for me and continues to sustain my life and further guides me is the one who deserves my worship and adoration. And none other than He who possesses these attributes of lordship is to be given this right of worship. It also displays clearly that to Allah belongs the most unique names and the most beautiful names and the most perfect attributes and qualities. And He alone knows His essence, and He alone reveals to us about Himself, His names and His attributes. And it also teaches us, Hajj teaches us to remember this vivid experience of the return to Allah, when the pilgrim wears these two pieces of cloth and recognizes that they are responding to the call of Allah. There will come a time when the human will respond to the call of Allah, which is death, and they'll be taken from this life, and then they'll be put in this grave and they'll be questioned. And this is where the believer reminds themselves during this time of Hajj that this is really the essence of Hajj, a comeback to Allah. And in further the many lessons which should be reminded is the unity that the Muslims need in these times, in many times, and the solidarity, but on the condition that this unity and this solidarity is upon the Book of Allah, the Quran, and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to the understanding of the early righteous predecessors who were the most to understand the message, because they were directly related to the Prophet's era and closer to what Allah Azza wa Jal or when Allah revealed this to the Prophet and understood it properly from the Prophet himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hajj Day Today. That was a short conversation with Dr. Omar Al-Jahani. We hope you appreciated that. Before we continue with Brother Mustafa, he wants to give us a point about the journey 7 times between the two mounts, Safa and Marwa. We have a telephone call from a brother from the United States, Sheikh Zaid Ansari. He's a senior consultant at a organization called Balanced Middle Path Solutions. Assalamu alaikum to you, Sheikh. Welcome to Hajj Day Today.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for calling in, Sheikh. We're talking about how Hajj incorporates many different acts of worship. Can you please elaborate?
Yes.
Sheikh, did you catch the question?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So, Bismillah walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. The question that you posed is really, the peak of the matter, Aki, in that Allah has designed this wonderful religion and the organization of the pillars that culminate in Hajj, that it really causes us to think not just about the fit of Hajj and the requirements to have the proper nidam and the tartib and all of this, but it also makes us reflect upon what we should do. And when we go to Hajj, it just begins us in the process of making our life reflect upon all of the things in Islam that is required inside of the Hajj and out of the Hajj. But I think more importantly for those who judge, they should leave with the reflection of what has been reinforced for them to do when they return to their countries and their homes, because of the comprehensiveness what Allah, has ordered for us to do in the Hajj, starting with, when we leave the miqat of the different points of arrival. The Hujjaj says, Labayk, I'm here for service. I'm here to obey your call. And that's just not the fiqh Hajj. That's the internal dimensions as well. Patience, cooperation, tolerance, love for your brother and your sister, charity, a smiling face. We have 3 million people approximately in the same place in a very short span of time. And this requires for us not only to have touch the conditions of the legislative Hajj, but to have the mental and spiritual and emotional fortitude to cooperate alabiyah with and taqwa with the other Hujjaj. And so it really pushes us. One of the things when Ustaz Ibrahim called me and told me about the question, I started to think about, wow, isn't it wonderful? The first thing that Allah does, He puts this longing in us, shawaq, for the Hajj. And that, a lot of people nowadays, they may have a lot of money, and they may have a lot of free time, but they do not have the longing and the desire for the Hajj. And if one wants to have a Hajj Mabrur and accepted a righteous Hajj, that condition of the heart of longing and wanting to meet Allah, and wanting to stone the shaitan, and wanting to stand on Arafat, and wanting to slaughter, and want to do the things that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did, and the things that our father Ibrahim alayhi salam taught us, then it has to begin with this longing and this desire for the Hajj. And it's so important that we reflect on these inner dimensions, because that's what you'll take home with you. You may stop and get some dates and a sajada for you and gifts for your friends, but what will last and what you will take home with you is the intercultivation of what Allah intended in the meanings of each one of these things that we experience on the Hajj in the different types of ibadah and on long respects.
All right. Sheikh, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and look at the importance in terms of Hajj in terms of worship. We will say salam alaikum to you. Again, thank you for calling to join us. This is Sheikh Zaid Ansari from the United States. He is a senior consultant of Balanced Middle Path Solutions. We will continue, and we appreciate his contributions. He helped us remember that we're going, earlier this week we talked in another segment, one brother described it as a school to learn, to deepen our faith, to learn more about the principles of Islam, and to learn these things of tolerance and peace and love, and go back and show the people, what we've learned to help build up the ummah. Brother Mustafa.
Yes. Actually, we were talking about the idea of one more time, the journey between Safa and Marwa, the two mountains. And actually you call it in Arabic sa'i. And actually the word in Arabic implies two meanings. It means like you can to walk from one place to another a bit fast, and it also implies the meaning of work, or taking the reasons and working hard. And actually there is a kind of a relationship between both of them, because this is what actually Hajar in the first place did. She actually tried to look at the reasons, and she worked to find water for her son.
That's right.
That was the reason why she went from this mountain to the other mountain, thinking that she would find a source of water there, and then she went back to the other mountain, and then she didn't give up for a long time, just working hard and doing her best to find water for her son. this also reminds us later, it's an act of worship, but it reminds us how hard we should work in life, and how, we should think of our work in life as a part of, something that can bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and something that you can probably be rewarded for. So this sa'i between Safa and Marwa, it actually is another act of reminding you that you should work hard. And actually, there is a hadith, I can't remember exactly the words, but I can tell the meaning. It says, "Is'aw فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ عَلَيْكُمْ سَعْي," which means like work because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obliged you to work. So when you do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to do, you rewarded for it. And one more time in this hadith, the word sa'i is mentioned, and in the ritual itself, it's called sa'i bayna Safa wal Marwa. So it actually implies the two meanings. This is another thing which is hard work, or take the reasons and work hard. So organization, patience, and I think hard work is three lessons that we learn from Hajj. And if I'm allowed to say just another thing, would be finally the modesty. And this is a very important lesson that we learn. One more time, we were talking about dressing the same thing as Sheikh has just said, and how you dress exactly the same thing that probably a rich man dresses, a billionaire dresses, the poor person dresses the same thing. And it also reminds us of the probably death and other things. There are so many lessons that actually
in fact just earlier this week I heard Sheikh Muhammad Salah of Hara TV. He was talking about the garments, the unstitched garments that we wear. He said it's like, I really appreciated this, when we're born we're received in a very simple garment, and we're given to our mothers in that fashion. And in the same way, when we die, he said, it's not going to be a suit, or it's just going to be a simple covering. And so when we perform Hajj, and the Dr. Omar in the report, he said this is coming back to Allah, that eventually all of us at one time or another are going to be called back to Allah at the end of our lives.
Just to add one or two things about what both of you are saying, they're both connected, is that he mentioned the sa'i, and how this is probably not the only, but one of the greatest demonstrations of what we call tawakkul.
Tawakkul.
Where a person knows that Allah is going to help you, but they do their part at the same time. They don't just say, okay, Allah's going to help me, help me. They do, okay, you know what, Allah will help me, but I have to do something too. And He will help me in a way that I don't know. But just do my part and then leave the rest to Allah. Continue to do my part. And have patience in applying this tawakkul. Because just because I did it today doesn't mean that Allah will answer tomorrow. He has a timing of His own to answer whatever it is the need for at the time to be. And
in the case of Rajab, it was 7 times. So for her, it didn't happen the first time. So there's determination there. There's a long suffering, and it wasn't until there was a spiritual intervention by an angel. Was it Jibreel that stopped her from looking? She was visited by the angel and said, "Go and."
I remember there was.
Then the water started from Zamzam started. So had it not been for this spiritual intervention, she probably would have continued because it was in her heart to.
She knew that eventually help would come. And just I know we're coming close, maybe towards the end, but I want to get this in because
we have time.
Okay, it's an amazing thing if you reflect upon it. Hajj encompasses everything about life. It gives you the opportunity to reflect upon your past and anything that you may have done wrong in the past, and to seek forgiveness for it by the rituals of salah, your sacrifice, these purification methods of your past. And at the same time, Hajj encompasses your future on the dunya. It gives you the fresh start. It gives you that, that feeling, after you come from a long, hard days of work and you take a nice cold shower and you clean, how do you feel? So fresh, and you're ready for whatever you need to do.
Human again.
You feel human again. Allah gives you a spiritual refreshing. You know what? Doesn't matter what happened before. No matter what it was. I don't care what it was. From this day forward, you have the chance to be as if you have never done anything wrong, as if it never happened. Not that you did it, as if it never happened. There's a difference between you did it, and I remember you did it, but I'll forgive you. No,
Yeah.
as if it never happened.
Right.
So, and the last third part is, it shows you towards what the future is going to entail for outside of the dunya. In other words, the Shaykh reminded me about the standing in the Arafah. It reminds you of the Day of Judgment. Usually, Hajj is hot. Not every Hajj from the time Hajj began was hot, but usually it's very hot. And you'll find everyone standing in Arafah for a long time, in the heat, sweating, making dua, calling upon Allah, and a lot of emotions. And it reminds you of the Day of Judgment, because you will stand for many, many, many years, thousands of years, that we will stand there before Him, waiting for the Day of Judgment to start. In this same fashion of sweating. Of course, we won't have ihram. Then we're just going to be sweating and waiting. And so, kind of Arafat is the closest thing that you will find to this sort of feeling that of the Day of Judgment before it begins, like waiting for it.
And like you said, the difference is that with the Hajj, you get to go back home.
Exactly.
And commit yourself to good deeds. Right. So the book of your life isn't closed when you perform Hajj, unlike when we are brought before Allah for on Judgment Day. Yeah, we are approaching the end. We've got about 5 minutes left. We have a telephone call by one of our beloved sheikhs, Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. Salam alaikum to you, Sheikh Kareem. We lost him.
Oh, subhanAllah.
Inshallah, before the program ends, like I said, about 5 minutes, we'll reconnect with him. And here we look forward to listening to what Sheikh has to say. Brother, we've talked about, there's the concept of jihad I wanted to bring up as well. How can we liken the Hajj pilgrimage and the rituals to jihad?
Okay, actually, before I just answer your question, I'd like to thank you very much for the episode today, because this is for the first time I have just contemplated the meanings and the representations of Hajj.
Okay. Sorry, they're telling me we've got just 1 minute left, but go ahead.
So actually, I'd like just to probably conclude with this. This is the first time I've just thought about the reasons, and I'm inviting every Muslim to just think about the reasons behind every ritual in Hajj and the lessons, the real lessons that we learn from Hajj. It's not just the rituals that we do, and we do it because it's a pillar of Islam. Yes, it's the pillar of Islam, and you have to do it. It's obligatory. But think about the lessons behind each thing you do, each move you make. One more time, this is for the first time I've just tried, probably to comprehend or grasp the meanings of Hajj and the different rituals that I'm even all hopes I'm probably that one day inshallah I will.
So right now you're having a moment of enlightenment.
Yes.
Wow, great.
It is true.
So this encourages us, the importance and value of this program and the discussion. As communicated by one of our guests. Brother Idris, we want to close with you. We got about a half a minute left.
Okay.
If you had a chance to perform again,
I hope.
I'm not sure what I want to ask you. I just want to know your expectations would be different. Your focus would be different. What would be different?
I think my focus would be probably more than the first time, because the first time is more of an overwhelming. You try to contain your emotions. But I'm telling you, there is no containment. It's even more than the mother who has her first child. And you can see the joy of a mother who has her first child. Going to Hajj is more than this. It's an emotion that's greater than any emotion that you can describe in any other kind of relation. And the last thing I would say was that if you have the ability to make Hajj, don't wait. Don't say, I'll have this. Nothing is more important if you have the ability to make it.
All right.
Do it.
Do it as quickly as we can.
Yes.
Because we don't know when Allah's going to end our lives.
Also, yes.
Right? Okay, Brother Idris Sarat and Brother Mustafa Yusuf, thank you both so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for this episode. Thank you.
All right. Dear viewer, we've reached the end of today's program, Hajj Day today. Thank you so much. We hope it was beneficial, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the benefits of giving the time to this program on the Day of Judgment, inshallah. Thank you again for tuning in. We hope, inshallah, to continue the program in the days to come. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك